Good morning, good morning, good morning. Sorry if it's a little bit delayed. I, for some reason, was trying to open up yesterday's spaces because I am a moron. Where is Mr. Brown? There he is. Invite co-host, send co-host invite. Hello. Here he is. Oh, no, not yet. I tell you what, let me get the legals out the way. One second. Good morning. Good morning. Let me just get these.
I thought I was the technically challenged one round here.
Well, yeah, I just was reading the wrong tweet, wasn't I? One sec, let me do this. Right, as usual, nothing discussed on this Spaces session constitutes trading or investment advice, or infers any kind of endorsement by PIQ Global Limited, trading as PIQ or PiQSuite, or its affiliates, included in the hosts with the most, which is Mr. Brown and my good self. Good morning, everyone. Michael, how are you?
I'm very well, mate. I'm very well indeed. How are you?
Well, I was okay, and then I saw you already up to your old mischief with your puns, and it's just put me on the back foot a little bit, and
Oh, I've even been allowed puns on the corporate account now, and
that's what I'm looking at.
they've all been scheduled to come through the morning, so there'll be plenty more to come.
Oh, can't wait! Can't wait.
I don't quite know why marketing agreed to let me write all of these, and I think they'll very quickly regret it. But oh well.
Yeah, I'm kind of getting that feeling myself, to be honest. But yeah, go on then. What have we got? What happened yesterday? Tell us what happened yesterday.
Well, I guess the short answer to that is not much. It was quite a quiet day, to be honest with you, in terms of both data and news flow. I was chatting to the gents over at News Squawk yesterday evening, and we were both saying how it was relatively dull, to be completely honest with you, in terms of the fundamental drives of the market. And I guess it was a good chance for us to see which way the path of least resistance leads, particularly in the equity space, and that was to the upside with the S&P and NASDAQ both closing around 1% higher. The NASDAQ had about 1.5% on the day. Although we have seen some of those gains begin to pair a little bit this morning with futures touching session lows as I speak. Outside the equity space, there really was absolutely nothing going on. Treasuries stuck in a very, very tight range. The FX market also very quiet and very choppy. The dollar stuck between 104.20 and 104.40 for pretty much the entire day. It was interesting, though, that the Aussie and the Kiwi both slumped about 0.6%, despite that firmer risk tone, which I think is, for anyone trading those currencies, something worth bearing in mind, given that they're moving in the opposite direction to the traditional correlations that we tend to see.
What are you putting that down to?
Flows.
Oh, you bastard. Oh, well played.
For those who aren't familiar, that's strategist jargon for I haven't got a fucking clue.
It's basically the highbrow version of more buyers than sellers, or more sellers than buyers.
Exactly. And it's even better to use that excuse, just around this time of the month, people front running month end is often
always a classic.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, that was pretty much it in terms of the market moves yesterday. A few headlines worth bearing in mind. Of course, the US political situation is still in focus. News breaking overnight, according to the Associated Press, that Harris now has the required number of delegates to achieve that Democratic nomination. There were reports that she was looking to get that tied up by Wednesday evening, but in fact she has already done so. Endorsements also coming in from pretty much everyone in the Democratic Party. Nancy Pelosi endorsing Kamala Harris yesterday. Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries, the top Democrat in the Senate and the House, respectively, set to endorse Harris today. The interesting one is there is absolutely no one even trying to run a campaign against Harris. There were endorsements from a whole host of governors yesterday, including Gretchen Whitmer, Gavin Newsom, and J.B. Pritzker. Those three had all been rumored to be potential presidential candidates. They're falling into line. There are also endorsements from Wes Moore, Josh Shapiro, Roy Cooper, and Andy Bashir. They are all governors who are rumored to be in the running for Kamala Harris's vice president, running mate, I should say, for the vice presidency. And just another interesting one, we spoke about fundraising yesterday. The campaign raised $81 million in its first 24 hours. Which is a new single day record for a presidential campaign, which I think speaks volumes about how Biden's decision to drop out of the race has been
This is one of
received.
those, like, very similar to the vibes you get when, like, say, a CEO steps down and the next day the stock shoots up, right? Do
Yes,
you know what I mean? It's
very
like
much so.
they're like, oh, thank God he's fucked off, right? Lump in.
Yeah, absolutely. The only other thing that's of note from yesterday on the news side of things, before we get to your geopolitical rundown, is we did have some BOJ sources. This via Bloomberg. The BOJ, of course, meets next Wednesday, the 31st of July. These sources saying that the Bank of Japan is said to see weak consumption as complicating next week's wage decisions. Some BOJ officials apparently wanting more time to view incoming economic data. Other BOJ officials are a little bit more hawkish and worried about missing the potential chance to raise interest rates. And overall, it looks like the BOJ are going to leave that decision to the last minute. Of course, the BOJ do have a habit like SIV at the
Yes.
moment in advance of their policy decisions. So I would expect that to be the first of many sources reports that we get ahead of that meeting next Wednesday. Didn't have too much impact on the yen, but of course something worth keeping an eye on nonetheless. And that is pretty much it
Ah,
in terms of yesterday. Nice and short and
oh,
sweet.
lovely jubbly. Well, thank you for that. So, pardon me. So some headlines via our friends at News Squawk. The anticipated Netanyahu Biden meeting has been postponed, with a US official stating that it will probably happen on Thursday now. Also, Vice President Harris is getting in the mix, and she's got a meeting with Netanyahu this week. Obviously, as well, pretty much the de facto leader of kind of the nominee now for the US presidency. Biden said he's going to keep working to end the Gaza war in the few months that he's got left. The Israeli operation in Khan Yunis killed 70 people and wounded more than 200. That's according to the health ministry in Gaza, cited by AFP. Japan is to impose its first sanctions on Israeli settlers in the West Bank, in which it is raising an asset freeze on Israeli settlers following similar moves by the US and the UK. Leaders of Palestinian rival factions Fatah and Hamas will meet with the press in Beijing following reconciliation talks, while Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi will attend the meeting also. What else have we got here? Iraq eyes a drawdown on US-led forces starting from September and to formally end the coalition's work by September 2025, with some US forces likely to remain in a newly negotiated advisory capacity. Quite proud of myself, didn't mess that bit up. Um,
I was going to say, you did
yeah, I
very
thought
well
I
there,
did as
right?
well. Thanks, mate. I think I can feel you virtually patting me on the head. Um, what else we got? Just kind of, I wouldn't call it geopolitical, but just things worth noting. We're obviously we're being told by the SEC. We're being told that the SEC are telling issuers of spot ETF products that they can start trading today. So obviously, the crypto eyes will be on that. I know Cam's listening in, so
These are the
Ethereum ones.
not that,
Yeah.
yes, not. I was going to say not Bitcoin, but you somehow managed to work out what I
Well,
was on
I was like
about.
the that what-
You can, listeners, you can tell that crypto really is my
oh yeah,
forte currently.
massively, massively. What else? Oh, so the Human Resources Ministry, which I've never actually heard of before, but that sounds a little bit like yeah, it's slightly mysterious. The China Human Resources Ministry said that China added 6.98 million urban jobs in H1, and the employment situation is generally stable. Generally stable, sorry, and
So half that number then.
well, yeah, it's made up data in China, isn't it? One thing we've got as well, just kind of a more of an ad hoc one, is obviously crude suffered a little bit yesterday, and that's because we're seeing more and more people come out saying that there's going to probably be a surplus next year, which is something to keep an eye on. What else we got? I think that might be about it, to be honest, mate. Our world refined copper market was at 65,000 metric tons of surplus in May 2024, and that's according to the ICSG. So again, we seem to be getting into surpluses in quite a few commodities at the moment, and scheduled to get worse for next year. So I don't know what that means in terms of your trading, but yeah, there you go. It's not for me to tell you what to do, as I said in the disclaimer.
Yes. Thank God for that. Right, moving on to today then, I guess. We have had absolutely nothing of interest in terms of data or news flow overnight, in terms of broader macro perspective at least. The only headline that broke was that one I mentioned earlier about Harris now, according to the AP, having the required Black Democratic nomination for president. In terms of the day ahead, it is also actually a relatively quiet one in terms of data at the very least. We have some consumer confidence figures out of the Eurozone this afternoon. Consumer confidence in the Eurozone, incidentally, has been negative since the inception of the data series in 2000, which is, I mean, I thought I was miserable, but
Well,
that
you
was
are.
something
This
else.
not get this not say you're not miserable because you are. Oh, do you know what?
True,
Maybe if you
true.
stopped voting in this survey, maybe it might be positive.
It's the Eurozone, mate. I can't vote in
Well,
it. Right, moving on from that before we open all the Brexit debate once again. At the same time, 3 o'clock this afternoon, we also get the latest existing home sales data from the United States. Sales expected at 3.99 million in June, down from a prior 4.11 million. And then in terms of other bits and bobs to keep an eye on, we have a 2-year note auction out of the United States, auctioning $69 billion worth at 6 o'clock this evening. We are due to hear from ECB's chief economist Lane. In fact, we have already heard from him this morning, I should say. He didn't say particularly much of interest. And it is a busy slate of corporate earnings today, which is something worth keeping an eye on, given that the macro docket is relatively quiet. Before the market open, we hear from a whole host of firms, including Spotify, UPS, General Electric, General Motors, Coca-Cola, and Comcast. And then after the market closed, the big tech earnings season gets underway. We hear from Google, or aka Alphabet, as well as Tesla and Visa, also reporting after the market close as well. So I think earnings could get some attention, perhaps increased attention, given one, the size of the firms that are reporting, obviously Tesla and Alphabet, two of the so-called Magnificent Seven, and secondly, just in light of the lack of any other significant catalysts, markets may lean on earnings a little bit more than they otherwise would. But that is pretty much it in terms of today, mate.
well, it's just something I've just quickly read whilst you were reading that. It's probably worth flagging because it probably means we're going to get a lot of headlines on it. But this whole G20 digital tax bollocks is probably going to raise its head again.
G20 what
Digital,
tax?
you heard me. Digital tax, you bastard. The G20 digital tax talks are probably going to raise their ugly head again this week because obviously we've got a meeting this week with the G20 leaders. For you, those of you that aren't aware, the G20 seem to believe, well, on paper at least, that they can kind of agree on some global tax initiative for digital taxation. Obviously, they're getting nowhere fast on this, but it always raises loads of headlines. We always hear some people saying, "Oh, we're really close to it," and it's bollocks. Like they can't agree anything. But yeah, we're gonna probably get a load of boring headlines on that this week by the looks of it. Um,
Oh,
yeah,
joy.
exactly. I just love filling you with joy, mate. I said joy. Right, on that note, I think we better call it a day. Right, listeners, thank you for listening. Michael, as always, thank you for being an incredible host. See how I
Thank you,
said
mate.
that? Called you a host as well? Because
I was going to say, very
well,
kind of you. Moving up in the
I'll
world.
try. I try. Right, guys, keep it tight. See you tomorrow. Bye.
Cheers.